Sleep is a very impressive thing. You're supposed to get a lot of it, yet I managed to elude all and get none. That's because stupid man here, stupid man, forgot to unmute the audio for the latest video, because I was recording another video for a different channel, forgot that I was having my mic muted on that video for something else, which I just wanted background audio for, and then forgot to unmute my mic for my Blitz video. So now I'm re-recording it. But this will be a fun video. It's a very simple topic. What is more important? Blocking damage. And when I say blocking damage, I mean blocking loads of damage or dealing loads of damage. Now, obviously, you want to have either of these in a battle, or in the majority of games, both. Blocking a lot, in turn, allows you to survive a lot longer, which then allows you to deal more damage. However, a tank like the VK72, which I was playing because I don't really know why I was playing it. I saw it in my garage, Flossie wanted wins, and I thought, well, it's a tank, maybe I can help. And, well, you're going to see the game that I'm able to get out with the VK, which is an absolutely monstrous chunk of damage. Although I only block one shot, and it's the first shot that is fired at me in the game. It's a great example of a German super heavy that doesn't really block all that much. And to be real, the majority of German super heavies really don't have crazy armor. Like, yeah, the E100 has a pretty solid turret after Wargaming buffed it, but it's still got pretty weak track wheels, and it's also got a big ol' lower plate, and if you're in a heavy running Cali like I am, well, you're not really going to struggle to pen an E100, especially in the turret cheeks. It's kind of funny, these vehicles have so much hit points, but the armor's never the main point. It's really just being able to wait, whittle their opponents down with their alpha, and just beat them because they have more hit points, especially on a map like Nube, where I can fight the enemy mediums, or even Waffenträgers. Why is he there? You know what? I'm not going to question it. He can go wherever he wants as long as it gives me that glorious damage. So, 2 shots already fired, and we are at 1,700 damage dealt. We are definitely increasing the pretty poor DPM this vehicle has. Unfortunately, we were not able to connect an HE shell into the rear of that TVP, and also, unfortunately, Flossie's got about 2 health at this point. Nobody went up the bridge to support him. I went down low, because I thought I was going to be able to deal with the TVP, and as well, I didn't even think the waffle was there, but then I dealt with the waffle. But I did not think the majority of my team was going to follow me down low. I thought they were going to go up, especially because we have a tank like the E6. But you know what? That's fine. TVP didn't notice me until it was too late, so I was able to get a shell right into him. And with that, we're up to 3,000 damage dealt, which is a lot for especially a vehicle like the VK72 that sits at 2,200 DPM with Cali. That makes it one of the worst damage per minute tier 10s in the game. Now we get an absolutely massive chunk of damage into that E100, max rolling him for 800, and then dealing an additional 400 with a fire. So yeah, he's not all too happy. This is a great example here where, yeah, it's a pretty hard tank to pen, unless you dap the premium ammo, and then the E100 becomes quite easy. This is actually a great example of where the VK72's armor, well, I didn't mean to go this far up, but a great example of where the VK72, especially with this angle the E100's looking at, is a lot harder to see, because all he's seeing is the top of my tank, which is a very, very hard penetration. Now, the E5 is able to cut right through my turret cheek, but that is one of the things about the VK, is that it has very good armor, but only at certain angles. If you're actually showcasing any weak spots, it is very easy to take apart. Now, at this point, I was kind of expecting, and you're going to notice I put on my tungsten, I was really expecting that E5 to drive out in the open, but he just drove into the wall. I thought he was going to rush me, so a bit unfortunate, but that's fine. We'll just slap the E100 again, and well, I'm not really sure what the enemy's doing at this point. The E5 pens me, which was expected, but I still have 1,000 health left, even though it doesn't look like I have a lot, because I normally have 3,000. That's still plenty of health. I mean, I can take at least 2 more shells from this E5. There you go, an absolutely badonkering slap into his vehicle. Nice little love tap for 27, and with that, we have broken 6,000 damage in a vehicle that features literally like 2 damage per minute. In fact, this is the worst DPM heavy in tier 10 and tank in tier 10. So it's a crazy example of where, even though the VK72 doesn't have DPM, because it has alpha and especially tungsten, you are very easily able to overcome those challenges and get out some absolutely crazy games. So as you can see, we did 6,659 damage, aced the tank as you you would expect, and only blocked 600 damage. You can imagine how, in a battle that I actually needed to survive and block a lot of shells, this tank wouldn't have lasted all too long. In that battle, sure, the enemy didn't really know what they were doing, but even with the enemies not really knowing what they were doing, I still got bled to only about 600 health. You can imagine how quickly a VK-72 falls apart when you have tank destroyers, or even more specifically, autoloaders that tear into this vehicle. I cannot tell you how often it is to shoot a shell with this tank and then have an AMX-50B or T-57 Heavy just absolutely feast upon your vehicle's hit points, because, let's be real, a 17-second reload is more than enough time for an autoloader to poke you, pen all of its shells, and back up comfortably with plenty of time left. This battle is going to showcase the opposite side of the spectrum. Instead of being a meat shield and bleeding all of my health to trade with my opponents, this is a tank that literally only has the job of blocking. I mean, the gun's okay on the Type 71. I made a video on the tank literally like yesterday or 2 days ago talking about how the gun's fine. It's just like an IS-4. In fact, better on the move. It's actually quite a solid gun. And when you take a look at the pen, it's fine. And the DPM's a heck of a lot better than the VK-72. And it's really just an armor profile, though. That's the major thing that Type 71 carries. I always get confused when comp teams choose tanks like the Mouse or even the VK-72. I mean, yeah, it has that alpha. It has the ability to hit hard, but that's it. I mean, it's going to die very fast. A vehicle like the Type 71, sure, it might have less HP by about 250, but this vehicle will live forever on the battlefield. Now, unfortunately, we can see my T-57 Heavy loses a massive chunk of health, and for some reason, my 60 TP just watched my 57 Heavy lose all of that health, and said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to kill myself. Yeah, he literally brought himself from full to 0 in like half a freaking second, bro. Oh my, cringe. I don't even understand how people can do that bad, but either way, he is irrelevant to the results of this game, because I have one job in the Type 71, and that is to hold. We know that there are at least 4 tanks here. We've got the IS-7 and E-100, plus the Object 268 and the TVP 5051, plus we saw the E4 over here. So that actually means there are 5 tanks, as of right now, off to this side of the map. That also means that these 2 Progettos, which are actually very good players in the 4L clan, have just sealed their fates. Also, that shell, that was really cringe. But I seriously don't know what those 2 Progettos were planning on doing, because they were definitely the win for the enemy team, and they turned that game around for themselves and threw it right in the gutter. That T100 LT and Flossie finish off the other prog, and with that, all I've had to do for the rest of this game is hold. I got a nice shot into the IS-7. We've already blocked a pretty decent chunk this game, which is not too bad at all, but let's keep on blocking. Alright, well, the 268's coming off to my side, which is not too fun, but I'm going to shoot the U100 right now. Obviously, the U100 features a big slap, and even though the IS-7 does have a meaty alpha at 460, the thing about the IS-7 is that it has pretty poor penetration, which is something that doesn't worry me all too much. Now, that E100 slapped my lower plate, as you can see, and then the 268 slapped me. Oh boy, yeah, that's not too fun. The 268 rolled me for 700 as well, but the good news is that the 268 is a one-shot. So all I need to do is wiggle my tank, and there you go. Get a bounce. With that, we have blocked over 4,000 damage, but oh, that's not good. I bounced the 268 because he angled his tank right at that last second. But that's fine. We still out-reload him. I can tell you for a fact, if I was in a VK-72 on this battle, yeah, there's just no way I would have lived. I mean, you can imagine, with the amount of damage I've blocked, I would not have bounced nearly the chunks I did. But we're not done yet. We still got a little bit more to deal. E100 pokes me. We get a nice slap in. Then we're going to back on up. E100 actually shoots the Foch instead of me, but that's fine. I'll take any extra damage I can get. I am a little cautious here because I know that both of these guys can kill me. I only have 400 hit points left, but Flossie goes for it, and with that, he manages to turn the E4 turret, which means I get a nice slap right into the vehicle, with up to 3,500 damage dealt. Flossie gets some absolutely big poobs into that E100, and we finish him off with a shot right into the turret cheek. And there you have it, 3,829 damage dealt. An absolutely badonkerous battle. Unfortunately, we were not able to get that final shell into the T110E4. But this was a great game for two reasons. First of all, we did okay on damage. I'll take 3,800. That's not bad any day of the week. But we blocked 5,200 damage, which is insane when you think about it. I really don't think any other tier 10 could have blocked this amount of damage. Even a vehicle like the IS-4 or IS-7, I really don't think could have done what the Type 71 did in that situation. Maybe the V4 could have, but at the same time, I don't have the hit points, I don't have a turret. This tank is just crazy. It really is. The Type 71 is all about hit points and survivability. And as you can see, it carried this game completely. I was not only able to live, but I was able to give my Foch absolutely crazy farms while I was sitting there and taking the shells, and I allowed Flossie to be able to flank, deal with the mediums, while nobody pushed me frontally. It's a great example of where having that armor and having that survivability can sometimes be more important than dealing big chunks of damage. Overall, it's kind of a mix in between. You never want to drive a tank like the VK-72 alone. I can tell you for a fact that if you drive this tank outside of Platoon, you will struggle because it does not have the damage per minute, nor the mobility and survivability to carry a losing battle. But if you drive this tank in Platoon, it can do very well, especially if you platoon with a medium like Flossie was in. It allows me to deal with a lot of the harder hitting heavies, to weed them out, bleed them out, and while that's going on, not have to worry about medium side being a loss because Flossie's helping me with that. At the same time, with a vehicle like the Type 71, it's just kind of better for the majority of situations because the Type 71 has the ability to not only bounce, not only has the ability to deal damage, and so be it a lot less damage per shot, but it's got more DPM, and it's more forgivable because if you bounce a shell, you're only bouncing 400, not 640, so you got a much faster reload to recoup that bounced damage. It's one of the major reasons why I always find the VK-72 so frustrating to drive sometimes is when that gun really trolls. But either way, the Type 71 is both yin and yang, and same for the VK-72. Overall, my personal suggestion is you want to get a tank kind of in between with decent alpha and decent survivability. There's a lot of vehicles out there that feature those capabilities. For example, the IS-7's got decent alpha and decent survivability, and another great example would be a vehicle like the 60TP. This one's got survivability out the wazoo and crazy alpha going for it. So there are definitely tanks that share a lot of these aspects. The AMAX M4's got a lot of survivability, a lot of mobility, a lot of alpha. It's honestly a tricky spot to gauge, but usually tanks that feature a lot of different aspects that all heavies can carry are a lot better than specific heavies like the VK-72 that only feature one or two really cool things going for them. Either way, hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and if you'd like to see more like it, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.